In this week's episode, Ian catches up with Marco Ferrari, who is the co-founder of Hammock. Now, Marco is going to be talking through everything which is making tax digital, which is coming very, very soon. And to help you guys prepare, Ian has formed a lot of questions to Marco to really find out about making tax digital and how we can help you to plan for that. So over to Ian. I hope this is helpful.
Tracy, thank you very much indeed. Now, this is a really crucial area. You absolutely need to know this info. Marco Ferrari is with us, co-founder and COO of Hammock. Marco, good to see you. There used to be 3 words that frightened landlords: renters' rights bill. Now there are 3 more. Making tax digital.
Absolutely.
This is new. What is it, and what do people need to know?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. Absolutely agree with what you're saying. MTD, Making Tax Digital, MTD, is the next big thing on the landlord's agenda. And what we usually say at Hammock, at our company, is that this is a paradigm-changing initiative. What we mean by that is it is obviously a very big change in tax, but most importantly, it will affect the day-to-day processes and the way landlords just approach their own business. Starting exactly from the point that many landlords tend not to treat their property investment as a proper business. What I mean by that is that we find that our users are often part-time, and it's people who have maybe another main job and they have other interests.
It's by nature of the industry, it's something some people just fall into. They inherit a house or something.
And it used to be called passive income as well, although it is getting more and more active, I'd say.
True.
But so because of that, many landlords are just used to somehow collecting after a big headache somewhere during Christmas. Then January hits, and then a little bit of panic sets in. They try and find whatever paper receipts they got. They try and put together the figures, send them to their accountant, and then on the 31st of Jan, kind of surprise, the tax bill is there, and then they understand whether they made any money, what's working, what's not, and they make plans. Making Tax Digital is an initiative by HMRC. That will change all of that because it will make tax reporting mandatory quarterly. So every 3 months, landlords will have to file an update about their business. This doesn't have to be 100% accurate. It doesn't require an immediate payment. It's not like VAT. However, these filings will happen 4 times a year through authorized software recognized by HMRC. And then on the 31st of Jan, there will be something called a final declaration, which is the replacement of a current self-assessment deadline. So we are effectively going from 1 filing a year to 5. And
So that's the 4 over the year, and then the January.
Yes. So the 31st of Jan is staying. It will be called final declaration. It's a slightly new thing, because this is where all the different sources of income will be put together. Because Making Tax Digital is an initiative aimed at sole traders and landlords. These revenue streams will be reported separately from each other and also separately from any sort of pay income, investments, dividends, other sources of pensions, other sources of income. The final declaration is where everything comes together. So the final tax rate is defined and the final tax bill is issued.
So in terms of Hammock, your company, what is it that you specifically do? You've explained brilliantly what it is and what to expect. Where do you guys come in?
We are the accounting platform for landlords. We've been around for almost 7 years now. So interestingly enough, we were born when MTD was not even on our horizon. So initially, all our approach to business was to really help landlords move away from spreadsheets, moving away from intermittent updates on their business, to just have an app on their phone that at any given moment they can just tap into and understand, have I received the payment? Have I made the payments that I needed to make? Am I making money? Are any of my properties giving me any issues? That kind of thing. So we don't do any property management. We don't run the properties. We only deal with the income streams and the expenses. Funnily enough, after a few years, So we've always had a tax element because obviously it is fundamental as part of a business, but now this is becoming more and more of our almost full-time job. What I mean by that is, as you were saying at the beginning, we find that there is a very strong need for education and guidance. So a lot of our job at the moment is to provide that.
And so this comes in 2026. I understand there's kind of gradual steps depending on income. Is that right?
Yes. There are 3 steps. Starting April 26, it will be all landlords and sole traders with combined income. So even if you're making some money from property and some from other activities as a sole trader, you need to sum them up. And it is income, not profit. So it is gross income. Anyone whose annual income is 50K or above will be enrolled in April 26. April 27 will follow with anyone who's at 30K or above, and April 28 will be 20K or above.
Right, and then it just becomes normal after that. So
it's 20K is probably low enough.
Yeah.
That we would say the majority of the market will be enrolled.
So the filing becomes quarterly, like VAT, but you're not paying quarterly.
No.
Will you still pay your tax in a January and July setup? That
so
remains.
this replaces the current self-assessment system, but that part doesn't change.
So, and what's the theory behind it? Is it to make taxation? Is it to make individuals and businesses more accountable, more efficient, not doing that thing that many people do, and we've all done it in our past, when you wait to the very last moment and go, oh my goodness, where's the shoebox? I've got the receipt somewhere. Is it to address that kind of thing?
Some of it, absolutely.
You know exactly what I meant by the shoebox.
Some of it, absolutely. And to your point, 2 years ago, with Hammock, we ran a survey with 1,000 landlords here in the UK. We ran it, it was the 27th or the 28th of January, so literally 2 or 3 days before the end of the tax year. And we found that 1 in 6 landlords hadn't filed their taxes yet.
Wow.
So there is definitely an element of urgency there.
Of course.
And then what also, just to be very clear, I don't have any insider information apart from what is publicly available on this. The general understanding is that this is aimed at helping businesses get a better understanding of their planning, having clearer visibility on what's happening, so the tax bill is not a surprise.
Yeah.
And obviously, on the side of the government, it means that they have more control on how the businesses are doing, and they understand.
I was going to say there's something like 45% of landlords haven't put any money aside. So I suppose if it's a quarterly thing, it just mentally keeps you in check of what's coming around the corner. In terms of what you need for making tax digital, I mean, you mentioned software. Do you guys at Hammock, do you just deal with that? Does the individual still need to keep this new software package somewhere on their laptop or their computer? How does that work?
Love that question. In premise is because we are the first landlord software to be recognized by HMRC as compatible with MTD. So it is our bread and butter, really. I also think that using a recognized software obviously sounds like a big requirement on paper, but when you think about it, it comes with a guarantee that then your data is secure, is transmitted to HMRC as it should, so there shouldn't be really any big issues there. The reality is, together with the filings that have to happen through recognized software, there is a requirement also to have digital records. So that goes, you mentioned before, the infamous shoebox. That's a very good solution to just
Are you telling us as an exclusive here, Marco, the shoebox is dead?
It's last few days. Yeah. Let's put it this way.
There must be an opportunity for a piece of software called the digital shoebox.
Yeah, absolutely.
You guys need to do it.
There's, a lot of us do pretty much just that.
Exactly.
It's so the beloved spreadsheets aren't necessarily to be deleted. However, the reality is when you start thinking of the level of intricacy and the details and everything you need to have at hand, especially when you consider the upside of this, because nobody's saying, but of course there is more admin work to this, of course there are new requirements, but equally it is an incentive to push your property business to the next level. When you take into account all of that, trying to hang on to old processes that weren't quite working until now, it doesn't make that much sense. So embracing software is definitely one of those. And then, of course, the quarterly filings are another requirement that needs to be taken into account.
I mean, we've already touched on the fact that, and this is not a landlord thing, this is just a human thing. You put things like accounts and accounting to the back of your head, and then suddenly the date is upon you. There will be a lot of people who are so focused on running their business, and they do it really well, but they just, people struggle. There will be pain points that landlords experience. What are those areas that are of the greatest concern, do you think?
Yes, it's first of all, any change comes with some pain and adjustments, and that's a fact. The pain point that we are experiencing, the pain points that we're seeing at the moment already, as many landlords have already started preparing for this. So it's there's definitely been a wave in the industry of people trying to be ahead of the curve. And what we are observing at the moment, the first element is that most landlords tend to have some sort of hybrid structure in how they run their property business. And this is both on the side of ownership and on the side of tenancies. So what I mean by that is a lot of landlords, we have a couple of properties that they started off with that are all in their name. And then they have another couple of properties they own with their spouse, with any percentage with any split of percentage. And then maybe recently they started a limited company. Every single year for the last 4 or 5 years, there's been a record number of buy-to-let limited companies created in the UK. So many landlords have some properties as private and some others as limited companies. Making sense of all this is already quite a complication. And when you then add into the mix the fact that there are standard tenancies, there are HMOs with different tenants paying on different schedules, some of them sharing the payment, some others that don't share. Furnished holiday lets. Now the tax regime has been scrapped, there is still accounting to be done for next year, but it is a very different way of transacting. There's a different schedule of payment. The rates are not necessarily all the same. And then on top there is social housing and any other option. Yeah. So staying on top of all of this with a little bit of paper and a spreadsheet is in reality a very big complication. Yeah. Translating all that into a software that can support that is not an easy job. Of course, I'm saying this because at Hammock we do support all ownership structures and all kinds of tenancies. However, there are specific functionalities that need to be created for each one of these. And so I would definitely recommend the landlords pay attention as they are out there scouting for the best software solution, as they should. This is one of the requirements that they should really check, making sure that everything is covered about their own needs. Another element to consider, I should have said it first actually, is the learning curve. However much one may or may not like technology, getting to grips with something new requires some learning, requires a little bit of time, a little bit of effort, requires some setup. Some software products are easier than others. That's another criteria that I would really keep in mind, because being able to understand easily how something works and being able to adopt it quickly makes a huge difference in terms of cost, effort, and frustration. Yeah. There are products out there that require hours and hours of training and manuals, and it's who likes a toaster that requires 3 hours of course to be used, right? So software is not different really, and then I'd say there is a little bit of a mental switch, which is a pain point, but I believe it will turn into an asset very soon, which is getting to grips with the fact that, as we were saying, property is not really passive income anymore. It is active. Yeah. It is a proper business, and it needs to be run with a little bit more of attention to detail and timely updates. Yeah. Yes.
I mean, accounting isn't something the average, other than accountants. I never heard anybody say, can't wait to get home tonight because I'm going to do my accounts. It's that moment where everybody thinks there must be an easier way. I wonder with this, And you did slightly touch on it there about learning new tech. There's a kind of an opportunity with this, just in terms of, without even realizing it, becoming more across what you're doing, more familiar with your outgoings, your incomings, having to be able to physically see it on a screen in a way that, back to the shoebox, in a way that you couldn't before. So this could be
agree.
a real aid to landlords.
Absolutely agree. At the very least on two main levels. The first one is that we observe with a lot of our users, because we provide a business intelligence module as well, so where you can compare profit and loss per property and different tenancies and stay on top of your payments. A lot of landlords who, and I am not necessarily talking about anyone with 150 properties, even someone with 2, 3, 4 properties, they tend to know how much money they made at the end of the year, but they're not necessarily aware within their portfolio on what are the properties that are performing best, what are the others that are kind of breaking even, if there is one that more recurringly presents problems. And so having access to software that gives you the figures like that makes a big difference. And the second one is for business planning. We mentioned at the beginning, obviously the bill is the biggest issue at the moment on the table for landlords. MTD is following closely. EPC is the third one. There's investments to be made in a lot of properties to bring them up to speed, which means that an investment case has to be built, and you need to understand what will be your return on investment and all of that, etc. And some of the expenses may be planned in a way which is more tax efficient, especially if you are using an accountant or a tax advisor. Having access to software and having the data from your quarterly updates to make this kind of planning as you think of the year ahead will make a big difference in the velocity of business.
Can you withdraw from it? Can you ask not to be part of making tax digital? Because there may well be some people who say, I want to be excluded.
Yes. So two things. First of all, you can be excluded from the start. There are some criteria, and these are the main guidances published on the HMRC website. It tends to be around some specific disabilities or some particularly remote locations, like digital connectivity problems. And also there is an element of religious dispensation, because some religions prevent people from having access to technology.
Right.
So there are some, I'm just giving some broad examples here, but it is worth checking on the list of exemptions. There is also an option, once you are in, you can then, if you find that you're not eligible anymore, you can withdraw, but once you're in for 3 years. Yeah. So once you enroll, you kind of have to go through it, and then you can withdraw.
Okay.
Yes.
Worth just mentioning, though, before we finish, Marco, you can do it now, actually. There are pilot schemes out there where you can sort of get MTD ready.
Yes. We are enrolling some of our users as we speak. And this is an initiative that aims at helping people be ready before the deadline. So the benefit of running the pilot now is that you get to test the new processes and get to grips with the service without the panic, pressure, and the potential penalties of getting it wrong once it goes live. And also there is enhanced support, because at the moment we're not dealing with the whole market, so there's a smaller cohort of people who are being enrolled, so HMRC are following a little bit more closely. We do recommend, it's not necessarily, not everyone needs to do it, and not everyone needs to do it now, but it is a brilliant option for people who want to just make sure that everything is ready before they get to the deadline. Is the usual, do you prefer to do a little bit of work here and there now, or do you want to turn up and queue for 6 hours on the day? It is that kind of principle. So absolutely, the MTD pilot is something that we are quite passionate about.
Good work. Listen, it's been great to see you. Really informative stuff. Thank you, Marco.
Thanks for having me.